Hey everybody, Derek Brown here with another BEATBoX SAX Tutorial Volume 2 from the road on my 50/50 tour across the United States. And today I'm going to start a little three-part series on using rings for your playing. And today I'm just going to talk about one ring in one spot doing two different sounds, but there's a lot to say on this. And mainly because I haven't seen any other horn players ever do this. I actually saw this first, or got the idea from guitar players, fingerstyle guitar players, who are playing the instrument and then they smack the instrument and they do different things where they're physically striking the instrument. And I remember thinking, I wonder if I could do that on the sax. I'm doing lots of percussive sounds. I wonder if there's any way I could do it by actually physically hitting the instrument. And I'm thinking, and it's particularly about hitting the instrument while I'm playing other things. I don't want it to just be a gimmicky little thing. And so I'm looking at, while I'm playing, looking at my fingers of how they would be playing. And I realize, okay, every finger has buttons that they're constantly pressing, except one. Except the right-hand thumb, which is only holding up the saxophone on the hook. It has no buttons to press. It's not moving around. And yes, we actually have a neck strap, which could also kind of help hold the sax. And so I remember thinking, oh, maybe my right-hand thumb could actually hit the instrument. And I'm realizing, that's pretty quiet. It's not making any sound. But then I started messing around with, oh, rings. Maybe hitting the instrument with rings could make a louder sound. And so then there was a period where I was, looking for the perfect ring. I could talk a lot about that. And maybe I'll put in the notes below the actual ring that I found on Amazon. And it's actually not one, but it's 3 stainless steel kind of ribbed, I think it says pyramid rings. And if you look close, I know it's not quite focused, but you can actually see welding marks because I actually welded 3 of them together. I realized that one just didn't have quite the power, and that the more mass you had, the louder it would be. And I used to super glue these, but on tour I'd have to bring along a super glue stick because it kept falling apart. And then I actually got a professional welder who wasn't afraid to just weld something this small to make that. And so that's been great. It hasn't fallen apart since. Now, the part that most particularly parents get nervous about is, what does this do to the horn? Because they see me, playing this. They're hearing all this scraping I'm doing, and they're just wondering, and they're seeing this old beat-up saxophone, which actually is a fairly new P.Mauriat System 76 horn. It's just, I do a lot of things you shouldn't do to it, but it's actually new and plays super great. And so they're worried that, oh my gosh, what's the back of your horn look like? Are you just scraping it up? And the truth is, with this technique, with the thumb, everything I'm going to talk about today and in the next thing in this series is only hitting the thumb hook. And so you can actually replace these. Because the first sax that I got, the first professional horn I got was a Selmer Mark 6, an old horn. And it had a plastic thumb hook, and so you couldn't get sound out of that. And so I remember buying a metal hook, and you can actually just unscrew this, hook one of these on. Some of them are slightly different. Some don't work as well with other horns. But put that on, and then voila, you've got something you can hit. Now, these P.Mauriat horns, they come with a great metal hook themselves, which is really nice and resonant. You can check this out. This is the original, and check how big that is compared to what I ended up with. And this is actually a mod that I did where I actually cut off with a hacksaw to about there, and then all the scraping that I do, yes, it does wear that down. I have another video on YouTube called Insider Sax Stuff, and there I talk about all the different modifications that I've done on the saxophone, so you can check that out. But yeah, so the good thing is I'm actually not scraping the horn. Believe it or not, this is not from that. This is from me just experimenting with the other things. And so you can just keep replacing these without damaging the horn. That being said, if there are kids watching, don't do this to your school horn or your parents' horn until you own it, or until your parents say it's okay and you're willing to, scrape up your horn a little bit. But mainly it's just this thumb hook. Now, I also undid this little guard here because my thumb was hitting that. Certain horns, they're in different spots. You may want to do that or not. I just had my repair guy do that as well. And so, let's talk about hitting this thing. Mainly, I'm just taking the thumb, just normal saxophone position, and just striking right on top of that, and just trying to get a nice firm sound. A key thing, you want to do this in a relaxed state so you don't have any tension here. And so, you know, using a wide part of the thumb. Now, the key thing also is, it's one thing to just do that, but it's another thing, can I actually play saxophone stuff while doing this at the same time? Because that's the point. Otherwise, we just bang on a drum. So, here's where you want to come up with exercises for yourself. I could give you exercises, but with all this experimental stuff, you want to get good at knowing your level and then kind of doing that and then increasing the challenge a little bit. Start super simple and then gradually, step by step, increase the challenge. Kind of like if you've ever played piano, left hand and right hand, you don't just start doing, you know, a Beethoven sonata on piano with both hands going normal tempo. You slow it way down and maybe you just work on the left hand, maybe then you work on the right hand, then you do it together, then you speed it up. Same thing with this. You know, you might spend a little bit of time with a metronome, getting used to how that feels to hitting it and so forth. But gradually, you're going to try increasing the challenge. So one thing I'm going to do is, I'm just going to try to, maybe I'm going to do whole notes on the sax, doing a scale, like my G major scale, and I'm going to do 4 quarter notes on each note going up the scale. So far, so easy. So far, so good. But that's also because I'm just using the left hand on the notes. Now, once I get to D and above, it gets a little bit trickier because it's going to feel different when I have different fingers pressed down. And that's where the challenge is going to be. And don't be afraid to just kind of zero in on that and repeat that over. So, you can hear I already flipped one of those keys. And also, don't forget about the E flat. So, you know, do scales that have all the chromatic notes and whatnot. So that's one thing. Now, let's see if we can increase the challenge a little bit. Do half notes. How about quarter notes? Eighth notes. 16th notes, you could try. You can see I still sometimes need to work on this stuff. Okay, so that's just doing quarter notes in the right hand. Now, eighth notes we could do, you know. Now, at some point, we can only go so fast. And this is where we can actually do kind of an equivalent of double tonguing on the sax, but on the thumb. And instead of just hitting on the downstroke, I realized, oh, we can make a sound on the upstroke. Down, up, down. It's easier to see on this, but down, right here, down, up, down, and you kind of pass through on your way down. And so we can go down, up, down like that, and we can go twice as fast. So this can be our 16th notes or fast 8th notes, and we can practice that doing a scale. I'm going to go quarter notes on my notes on the scale, and then 16th notes on the right-hand thumb. And so forth. Now, of course, you would want to start slower. But just get used to how that feels. And then start interchanging the rhythms with your thumb. So maybe 8, 8, 16, 16, 8, 8, 16, 16. Or 8, 8, 16, 16, 16. You know what I mean. And to see this written out, because a lot of this stuff, it can be overwhelming. We're used to thinking of one thing at a time as a sax player. And so when we've got multiple things going on, sometimes it can be helpful writing this out. Sometimes in just kind of a chicken scratch notation where you just write the note name, maybe X's and whatnot. But some of you might know that I sell sheet music on my website, DerekBrownSax.com. And this song that I have for sale, Diakuyu, which I wrote a couple years ago, is by far my most challenging song that I have for sale right now. And throughout this music, you can see there's actually 2 staves for every part of the music, like a piano. And the top is the saxophone part, and the bottom is the ring part. And so you can see here with X's on just one line, you can see the different rhythms. So quarter notes here, and then here 16ths. So like this rhythm, 8th, 8th, 16th, 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 8th, 8th, and that's a spot where I would go down, up, down, up, down, up. And in the key of this, I think I explained that, but that's where something like this. Once again, I have no superpowers here. My only superpower is that I practice a lot, and I'm willing to slow things down where it sounds so terrible because it's so slow. And so just working on those, you know, maybe just work on the sax part, maybe then you just do quarter notes on this, maybe then you learn the rhythm on this, then you put them together really slowly, just a measure at a time, and then go from there. And then you're well on your way. And it's pretty cool. A lot of stuff that I used to do before where I'd go, where I could only do it with my mouth, now I can go, which not only gives me a time to breathe, but and so forth. It lets me play more things. So that's just part number 1 on rings. I've got 2 more parts where I'm going to talk about different sounds and different rhythms you can do on just this, and then using rings all over the sax, and that's the part kids don't show your parents. So yeah, I'll see you next time in some other place around the country. Until then, keep it real.